What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens episode review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over episode 47 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. I know I'm a little late in this one. I do apologize. A lot of stuff ended up coming up to where I couldn't do this. And let me just say this. Some of the news that we've gotten over the last week, there's just a lot of stuff that has been coming out that I've been just trying to prepare myself to do, so expect a lot of things coming to the channel. I'm just gonna say that much. I'm not gonna say what it is, but we got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. But that out of the way, I just wanted to kind of explain that real quick. We are going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens episode 47. So without further ado, guys, let's not waste any more time and let's get right into it. So generally speaking, what were my thoughts on this episode? So let me just start off by saying this. I think, in my opinion, after watching this episode, this became my least favorite episode of this arc. And it also became, I would probably say, in a top 5 worst episodes from Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 so far. I was just really not that high on this episode, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. This episode was just a miss to me. And I'll go over the reasons why. I'm not going to just say that and not give my explanation for this, but let's get into it. So basically the episode starts off, we just get a little recap of what happened. You know, Roa finding the sign on the wall, and which basically reflected back to episode 1 with Otis, and they go and ask the man, or the ramen guy, who was the one that gave the sign, what is this sign doing here? And, you know, he was just kind of like smiling about the whole thing. Then we just quickly jump over to a different scene where we have Geta and Yoshio under a bridge. And, you know, they're kind of talking about the whole thing that happened with Roa. And as they're talking, they do see this, like, silhouette person just looking over them. And that's when the opening actually goes into play. So we don't know who the character is yet. We don't know who this really is. We just know that they're going to interact with Geta and Yoshio that we know from the summary, which I didn't do one, but I will actually mention the summary in a minute, so bear with me on that. But we jump back over to Rook and the crew as they're kind of still heading towards Maximum Mountain, and might be a pointless scene, but I thought it was a pretty funny scene. I will say this much, is they're crossing the bridge, and you know, we remember in the last episode how Luke and Roman were eating that, basically ate that whole, like, building that was in the last episode, or I guess it wasn't really a building, it was like a monument or something like that. They ate the entire thing because it was made out of, like, candy and sweets, and they were walking across the bridge, and the bridge ended up breaking, so they had to try to hold on. Luke was able to catch Roman from falling into the water, and, you know, you have the ramen crew trying to get him up, but they end up falling in the water, and in the next shot, they're already at Maximum Mountain. Like, after all of that just happened, they just jumped to the next scene, which I find that hilarious. Was it pointless? Maybe, but I thought it was hilarious, so I think I'm fine with that. So they finally make it. They actually basically lose all of the weight that they gained from eating that whole monument as well, which was kind of funny how, and that's why I thought it was hilarious about it as well, is that they brought back that concept from the last episode of them eating that entire monument to the point where it actually affected them, and then out of nowhere, they're just back to normal. So I think that's where it was kind of interesting about that. But they're ready to go into Maximum Mountain, and they hear this, like, weird music going on, and they look behind them, and Geta and Yoshio's there, which is very interesting of why they would be at Maximum Mountain. And they tell them that they're not going to allow them to go forward. And this is when we get introduced to their new leader of their group. And that leader is Kaizo. I just want to say this. You know what's really funny about this? Go back to the last episode review that I did. And in one of the moments during that review, I said, you know what's weird? We have not seen Kaizo in a while. We haven't seen him since episode 41. It's really weird, huh? Well, guess what? As soon as that happened, after that review, I look at the summary and guess who's there? It's Kaizo, which this is something that I want to ask you guys. Did you guys think that Kaizo was going to be a new member of the group? The summary was talking about some new, strange, mysterious, tall guy was going to be with Geta and Yoshio. Did you guys think it was going to be Kaizo, or did you think it was going to be someone else? And let me know in your comments if you believed it was going to be Kaizo and why, or did you not think it was going to be Kaizo and why? I would really like to know you guys' thoughts on that. I thought there was a very high chance, and this was just something that I noticed. And if you guys noticed this, good on your part, because it took me a minute to notice this. I was reading through the summary. I read it twice, and I looked at the summary, and it was very, very interesting. Which, actually, I'm going to show you the two summaries. The left side is going to be episode 41 summary, and episode 47 summary is going to be in there, which, ironically enough, are the two summaries that I didn't do on this channel, which I do apologize for that. But when I looked over the two summaries, I noticed that Kaizo's position on the summary was different. Kaizo was with the group with Yuga and Crow, which would make sense. He was that, and then the 41 summary went Kaizo and then Neil. And then we go to the 47th summary, and you don't see him there. You keep going down the list, and right after they mention Goha 66, there's Kaizo. So that's very weird that he's placed so low in the cast list, maybe because of the fact that he's kind of lost in his importance. But then right after that, it's Geta and Yoshio. And that just, it wasn't a confirmed thing. I wouldn't say like that 100% confirmed that it was going to be Kaizo. It still could have been a good chance that it could have been 66, although I just don't think that would have made any sense. It could have been the ramen guy, which also wouldn't make sense, so it just left Kaizo, because those two characters were already doing something else during the episode, so they wouldn't be involved with this. So the only last person that just made sense was Kaizo. The only difference that I thought was going to be is, remember the bike back in episode 13? He was able to transform with that bike, so that would make sense of why he would be this tall man, until we find out that it wasn't the case. It was Goha 66 that actually gave it to them, but that was just something I really thought about. Let me know if you caught that, or was I just looking into it too much? That could just be the case, but that's where we ended up finding out that Kaizo was a new member of the group. And at first, they didn't take them seriously. They were going to go into Maximum Mountain and just ignore them. And they basically go in front of them and basically force them into a duel. And Kaizo this episode, let me just say this. This episode found a way to make me hate this character more. If you guys don't remember, I don't like Kaizo. I really do not. He is just the character that does not interest me one bit. Then you get this. You get this corporate scum-looking Kaizo that is basically saying, oh, when I beat you guys in a duel, you're basically going to become my slaves. It's basically what they said, because you're going to be forced to work for me. I'm going to basically manipulate, or not manipulate you, but basically force them to actually work for him. And, you know, you get Roman getting all mad and tell him just to kick the crap out of him, and, you know, Rook decides to take this, which, another thing to point out about this as well, and this was something, I will say this, the duel was alright. I mean, it was my least favorite duel, I would say, of this arc as well. This duel just did not interest me at all. I think the only good, well, actually, I'll get into the duel in a second. I don't want to jump all over the place, but maybe this is just me, but doesn't it feel like Roman shouldn't have dueled this episode? And again, this could just be me, but think about this. This is her bandmates' whole situation. This has to involve with their bandmates. Why is she not the one that's dueling against the leader and trying to get some sense into these two kids? Why in the world is Kaizo is fine. I think Kaizo shouldn't have been the one to duel this episode. I'm completely fine with that. But I felt like because of the connection with Roman and Geta and Yoshio, because of them being bandmates, it just made sense for her to duel this episode. Plus, for people that might not know, apparently she is getting a new ace monster that we haven't seen yet in the show. And excuse me if I'm wrong on this. I think it's like Can Reedy or something like that. That could be completely wrong. I have really no idea. I can't really remember it. But she has a new ace monster, and it'd be a perfect opportunity to show that to kick the crap out of Kaizo, but they decided to have Luke be the one to duel, which I don't mind Luke dueling. I just feel like it made more sense for Roman because it was their bandmates, and that whole situation was going on with their bandmates, that I just felt like it made sense for Roman to duel this episode. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just where I think should have happened. But whatever the case might be, that's not what ended up happening. So before we get into the duel, let's go back into the ramen shop where we had the whole scene with Yuga, Neil, and Yuga. You have Ron's coming out of nowhere, which honestly, I forgot she was on the cast list, and she basically comes down from the ceiling out of nowhere and basically tries to say that this man, from all of the evidence here, that this was Otis, which I find hilarious because of the fact that I remember the internet blowing up about this and people were just theorizing that, oh, this ramen guy is going to be Otis, which I'm going to be honest with you guys, I did not believe that for one goddamn moment because it just didn't make any sense. I felt like that would, A, be too predictable if that was going to be the case, and B, it just didn't make really much sense for him to be that. Or for the way he's been acting in the show, I should say. It would just be weird that this is the way they find it out. Like, I don't know. But basically, they deconfirmed that, and they're trying to figure out who this was. And you see him laughing, which we saw in the preview. We just find out he's laughing because he's watching some video on his phone. That is literally the only reason why this guy is laughing. And basically, we find out that the writing on the wall was basically a payment as someone that ended up coming into the shop because they didn't end up having their wallet. So they basically gave them this autograph board just to hang up on the wall. And then you have this weird, creepy shot where Roa and Neil and Yuga were basically hovering over him, trying to see like if there was any more information that they were hiding. And apparently, we find that out. He knows something about Goha 66, as he does mention that, which no one mentioned, by the way, too. Which, are people just dumb? Did they just mention something that they shouldn't be mentioning? I remember last episode, you had I actually forgot her name. It's the Sweet Chicago. Sorry, I just completely butchered or forgot the name there for a second. She mentioned Chicago in that last episode, which no one mentioned, and no one was talking about Goha 66, but this guy knew about it. Which this just shows how much more of a joke that these 66 members are, because we basically find out what their motive was this episode. So basically their motive was that they were going to try to celebrate their retirement because we find out their age as well. They're 66-year-old people that have been working at this corporation for a long time, and they feel like they're not recognized enough. So they're going to decide that they are going to basically make a fireworks for basically to celebrate their retirement. And you have the old guy there as well that kind of relates with them being old, and he's like, make this the best possible. And obviously the Goa 66 employee agrees with that. And then we got all that scene of what basically their whole thing is. So it's a bunch of grown men that are just complaining about their work and just not being recognized enough. And they feel like they need to make a meaning out of them. Which, really? That's what these characters are. I didn't expect much of these. These characters looked really bland to me when we first got introduced to them. They just looked like members from Top of Hexagon, and I felt like that was what the role they were going to play as, and that's basically what it was. It's really weird with this arc is that there really wasn't a strong villain. There wasn't. These villains that we got this arc were complete jokes. They're just grown men that are just complaining about work. Like, really? That's the villains that we're gonna have? Really? But getting back on topic, let's go back to the Luke and Kaizo duel, because that's just what I want to get back to. The duel was fine. I think probably my favorite moments of this, for me personally, well, actually, there's two things. I think the whole scenes where we were getting, where it was like Rush Dragon Dragears was kind of like this work man. He was like going around him getting demoted, and even like running into the boss and like getting in trouble for being late. I thought that was pretty humorous. Although this deck, As someone that just works, it really sucks. For people that work in like a corporation or something, I do apologize. I work at a small job. I don't really work at a big job. I just work something that's basically local at us, so it's not really that big. But for people that work at a corporation, I am so sorry for you. I just gotta say that much. I am so sorry for you. But you have that. And then probably my second favorite thing is we saw Dragonic Slayer again. For people that don't know, Dragonic Slayer is my favorite Rush Duel card from this series. I just love the design on the monster, and we finally got to see it again. I think the last time it was summoned, like actually summoned to the field, was I believe episode 8. Like I know it was in the episode 17 during the Schrodinger duel, but I believe he just sent that card to the graveyard. He didn't actually play that card. So it really, or was it the duel at Arya? I can't remember which episode it was, but we haven't seen Dragonic Slayer summoned in a very long time, and I'm just happy. I love this card so much. It's such a cool design. It's a dragon with this big weapon, but I love it. I just really do love it. We also do get a new ace monster for him and Kaizo as well. Kaizo's being, and I'm not even kidding you, this is the name of it, Shining Black Corporate King Arctalk the Corrupt. That is basically the name of his monster, which, let me just say this as well, and maybe this is just my opinion. I do feel like this card is getting censored for the English dub. I know I haven't really talked about the English dub that much on this channel just because of the fact that it hasn't happened yet. But this card is getting censored. This card is literally a robot human with a cigar. There is no way they're not censoring that cigar to be something else. For kids, I think of something like the One Piece anime, where they censored cigarettes to being like lollipops, like the lollipop sticks. So they might do something similar to that, or maybe they'll get away with it. Maybe they just won't care about that. That's the interesting with Sevens, is that it's so... this show is definitely more towards kids. You can really tell it with the tone of this show that I feel like, just a whole thing with a cigar, I don't think they're going to really care and just go on. They could do something like that, but knowing 4Kids past, I really, really doubt it. But that's just something I noticed as well. And then we got also Luke's new ace monster, Stockbuster the Tarot Striking Dragon, which I think it looked pretty cool. I actually like the design of the monster. But we got the 2 new ace monsters, but other than that, really not much to say about the duel. The duel wasn't really that interesting to me. We get into, after they capture Kaizo, Luke mentions that, hey, isn't there something on Kaizo, like, is it still there, as they go into Maximum Mountain, and we just see all the Go Double Six members get defeated. So basically they're all defeated and all the villains are now done for. They got defeated. But then you have Luke coming in, and apparently Kaizo, which by the way also ran into the whole Double Six crew as well, and talked about his whole situation, how he felt like he was mistreated, which, let me just say something about this little booger right here. If this character would remember, Yugioh and crew went out of their way to save your little butt, because of if you remember, Kaizo got captured by Neil, and Yugioh and crew went to go after him because they cared about him. And guess what happens? He basically backstabs them. He basically goes around their back and saying, you know what? You've mistreated me so much. And one of the shots I don't even think happened. It was one of the shots where, it was Kaizo, and he looked back and he saw like Yugioh, Luke, Roman, and Gagato all mad at them. Which, by the way, if that was actually the case that happened, I do not blame them. You literally left them on that area. Remember, they got stuck because of the fact there was a big old ring around them to where they couldn't get around and couldn't get out of their campsite that they were at. They asked Kaizo to get Sebastian to help them out. And what do? You spend your time arguing with him because you don't like him. So if that was actually something that happened, I don't blame them. And then you go out of your way to do that when they went out of their way to save your little behind because of the fact that they cared about you. You decide to go a 180 after them and go after them and basically say, oh, when I beat you in a duel, you're basically going to become a part of my crew. You're going to basically work for me. What the hell? Like, what in the actual hell is wrong with this character? I am sorry for going on a little rant there, but that really peeved the hell out of me. How was. Oh my god. That really bothered me this episode. That after everything they did to you, and yeah, oh, I will be fair on Kaizo on this. Some of the stuff that Yuga and the crew have done, maybe they could have treated them a little bit better. Like the shot where Yuga tied him up and dropped him off that ring to be able to see the distance of how deep that thing was, which was trying to make sure that they knew how deep it was, because I didn't see any rocks over there during that whole scene. So Kaizo was just the next best thing, because it was either that or one of them didn't, which, by the way, if one of those kids did it, they are 100% dead. There's no arguing that. You're a robot. You can get fixed. In fact, you can get modified and get better. So you should be grateful for that. But no, he's ungrateful for the stuff that they've done. So I do not like Kaizo. Screw Kaizo. I do not like this character. There is no convincing me to like this character, especially after this episode. But going back to the scene, I'm sorry, that was a little rant there for a second. We get back into the scene, and we find out that Kaizo was actually talking with the Goha 66 members, and there was a confess button on Kaizo, which is very convenient, by the way, which actually that's just hilarious because of the fact of how convenient that is. But they flip on the switch, and basically Kaizo tells them what their whole plan was going to be. Basically, they're going to take over the corporation so that they can be recognized before they retired. That's basically the entire motivation of this character, or these characters. These grown men and women are so upset that they weren't recognized in that company that they're going to take over the company to be recognized, then to retire. That might have been the stupidest thing I think I have ever heard. That is really, really dumb. I don't know if that was supposed to be comedic. I don't know what the case that was supposed to be, but that was just a disappointment. Like, that was their whole motivation, was just that these people were just upset because they didn't get recognized. Because here's the thing, though, and I'm not trying to say this to be upsetting, but it's just true. Not everyone is going to be recognized at a company. Say, for example, you work at a McDonald's, and you're a janitor, and you worked at a janitor for 10 years. Do you think every person that goes into that McDonald's is going to remember you? A janitor. Do you think people are going to remember a janitor that doesn't really appear that much? They just go out there during closing hours just to clean up and then go back. Are they going to really remember someone like that, other than the people that basically run the place, make the food, basically do the well, maybe not do the dishes, but like give them their food, like gives them their order if you're doing like an actual restaurant or something like that when they take their orders? They're going to remember some more people like that. Depending on where you work at is when you're going to be more recognized. And it's not like no one would recognize you. Now, maybe it's because Goha is just a bad corporation and they don't remember their group because they don't care. And I understand it from that perspective. But not everyone is going to be recognized just based on the point of where you work at. You have to work hard to be recognized. And you might say it like, oh, you work all hard your entire time, which, to be honest, I doubt these characters really worked their butts off. I just feel like they're just a bunch of crybabies that didn't get their way or just didn't get noticed the way they wanted to because they believed they did all this hard work. But this is what their whole entire motivation is. I'm sorry if that kind of went into a little rant, but this just does not make any sense to me. Or let me take that back. It makes sense. It's just dumb. These characters are complete jokes. Which, to be fair, I didn't really think much of these characters. I'm going to be completely honest. I know a lot of people were excited for this character, or the character that we got introduced to. But honestly, I just really didn't see much in this character, and this is what ended up happening. I think that's going to be it. I think I've gone over what I've wanted to go over this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I apologize for making... This definitely was more ranting, and I didn't want to make it that way. I don't think this was like a terrible episode. I think the episode was fine. Some of the points in this I was just not really high on, that it kind of really upsetted me. I will say this, though. This episode, although I don't like it as much as like other episodes, I don't think it's the worst episode we've gotten, surprisingly enough. I can name 3 episodes on the top of my head right now that would be worse than this episode, in my opinion. In my opinion, but that's just going to be it for my thoughts on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm sorry if this was a little not really what you're expecting, more of like almost like a rant. I didn't want it to make it sound like that. I do apologize for that, but I just got really passionate with this episode that I just needed to discuss. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this episode. Did you like the episode? Did you think it was an okay episode, or did you not like this episode? Let me know what you guys thought of the duel. I guess let me know, did you think Roman should have been the one that duel, or was that just me? I will completely understand that. I don't think it's bad that Luke dueled. I really don't think that's the case at all. I just felt like it made more sense for what the situation that was going on. And let me know what you guys think of the whole ramen guy thing that was going on during that. Love to know your guys' thoughts on that. But, guys, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.